The Multiverse Fundraiser is a virtual fandom jamboree and a charity fundraiser all rolled into one package. We're not just raising funds for a good cause, we're raising fun. Our 2023 event will be supporting the John Ritter Foundation for Aortic Health, which exists to spread awareness of aortic health and prevent unnecessary suffering through genetic research, widespread education, and radical advocacy. Our fundraiser combines celebrity panels, fandom-based panels, indie creators, and all of the fun of a virtual con for free. There's a little something for everyone while we support a cause close to our heart. Join us on January 20th through 22nd, along with celebrity guests Amy Yazbek, Jason Bear, Chris Gaucher, Victor Garber, William Catt, Cress Williams, Beth Broderick, Armin Shimmerman, Guy Gilchrist, Carrie Schaefer, Brian Hull, Amy Carrero, Jennifer Cody, and Joyce DeWitt.
Tonight on the Fanatic Forum, we got a whole lot of MCU to talk about. We'll recap and review the year that has been 2022, plus a look at what's going to be coming up for the year 2023, and there's a lot of good stuff there. But we'll do that right after this. Hey everybody, happy Friday and welcome to the Fanatic Forum. I'm your Fanatic and host, George Buehler. If you guys are watching here on the camera here, you notice that things look a little different here. And I'm also running a little bit behind. That's because my camera and computer both decided to have a little bit of a meltdown right before the show, which that's always fun. But so I'm on my backup camera here that the laptop provides. So there we go. So we'll just hang tough with this one here for today. Last weekend, if you all were not in Brandenburg, Kentucky for the last match of Vic the Bruiser, man, you guys missed a show. It was put on in conjunction with both the UCW and the USWF, which are both kind of local regional federations here in the Kentuckiana area. But they also serve Ohio and some parts of Tennessee and Indiana as well. So yeah, but that was a lot of fun. And yeah, just good old, old school wrestling, some great heels, great crowd. I had a couple of friends hanging out with me as well. So yeah, it was just a tremendous send off for a great wrestler, Vic the Bruiser, who had been celebrating 30-year career. So yeah, hats off to Vic. Congratulations to you, sir, and happy retirement, man. Dave, good to see you, sir. Yes, we had to improvise a little bit here, but hey, years working in live television has taught me that it is time to improvise when it's the worst time. So there you go. All right. So got a whole bunch of books to show off this week because let me tell you, Marvel had themselves a big week of books. There was a whole lot of books, period. I think there was like 185 facings that we got at Collaborating Comics this week. But yeah, whole lot of good stuff here. So got one DC to show you off here and a couple different indies, but then a big stack of Marvel stuff, which, tunes in. We're going to be talking about MCU stuff here. So had to mention this book this week here. It is the last chapter of the Failsafe storyline here, but Batman 190 here, of course, the team of Chip Zdarsky and Phil Jimenez was, of course, love these guys on the book right now. As far as I know, they're staying on the book, so thankfully for that. But yeah, this was a fun issue because it answers the age-old question of if Batman were to say, fall off a satellite in space and be propelled earthward, how would he survive? Would he survive? You know, would this be the end of Batman here? And thankfully, this issue answers that question for you. But yeah, a little on the ridiculous side, but also a lot of fun too. So yeah, I couldn't pass that one up. That was a good one. All right, a couple of good indie books here. Saw a couple of different books in their miniseries, and I'm sad to see them go because I basically both these books I champion from the word go. But first off, from Philip Kennedy Johnson here, Do a Powerbomb. And this was a really cool wraparound cover, too, to show you. So, yeah, that's awesome there. But this was just a fantastic tribute to pro wrestling. Just a wonderful, wonderful book here. Great story, lots of action in it. Love the artwork as well. So, yeah, let's see, Mike Spicer. Yeah, I believe is the correct. Yeah, Mike Spicer did the art on here. So Philip Kenny Johnson did the covers, and then both of them did the art, and then Philip Daniel Warren Johnson. Good Lord. There's too many three-name people in comic books recently, and I like both of them. So, or I like them, Anywho. I'm getting my tongue tied up here, but yeah, anyway, Do a Powerbomb. This was the 7th issue here. So if you don't want to wait for the trade, which is coming out next year, go to your local comic shop and pick up all 7 issues because it is amazing, especially if you're a wrestling fan. Even if you're not a wrestling fan, it's just crazy good action. So, if you like your, anime or, some kaiju stuff there, it all kind of, fits in. It's great, great stuff. Also, our last issue here of Night of the Ghoul, brought to us by our friends at Dark Horse Comics. Scott Snyder and Francesco Francavilla, the creative team on this one here. This will make a fantastic horror movie, and thankfully Warner Brothers did say after the first issue came out that they've signed on to do a film adaptation of this. Basically, this Night of the Ghoul was supposedly a lost film in the golden age of Hollywood monster movies. This would have been the ultimate monster movie, but there's some sort of strange conspiracy that attempted to stop the film from being made, and then has basically kept it under wraps from the beginning. There's also just a strange conspiracy of possibly if the ghoul actually exists for real. That was kind of the whole, some of the big mystery of this storyline here. So, but just a great horror mystery sort of story. Great art by Francesco. So, yeah, couldn't recommend it enough here. Second issue of Behold the Behemoth came out from Boom Studios here. Let's see, Tate Bromwell and Nick Robles are the creative on this one here. This is really cool. Still a lot of questions to be answered on this one here, but this has definitely kind of got a, maybe an uncontrollable, power set, causes some sort of apocalypse or whatever else, or, not quite sure. There's definitely a chain of events that we've kind of missed that we're being told in pieces here. But either way, we've got basically a young man protecting a young girl who definitely has some major powers going on here. We're not quite sure just what yet. Maybe they're a bit transformative. That's all I can say, but I don't want to give away too terribly much here. But a very cool series, really good art here. So, yeah, I was, after last week's trouble with second issues here with both Briar and Damn Them All, I was a little leery about a second issue for a new series here, but thankfully, Behold Behemoth, very, very good. Couple of number ones here from Marvel. First off, for Miles Morales fans, a brand new Miles Morales book here. Of course, this is also a really good jumping on point for fans if you've never read Miles before. This is some fun stuff here. Great, already team with Cody Ziegler doing the writing, and let me get the artist name. Last name is Vicente, but where's it here at the end? All right, I can't find it. Oh, here we go. Federico Vicente. Okay, here we go. Yeah, so I want to give them credit here. But yeah, wonderful stuff here. But yeah, good. yeah, the nice thing is that you can kind of jump onto this thing, but also if you've been reading the regular Miles Morales stuff, this will also kind of make sense. But Miles has been through the ringer lately. He's had his own clone saga. Of course, underage superheroes are still illegal currently in the Marvel Universe. So Miles has kind of been opposed to his own government before while still basically trying to do his own job. Lots of heartache, lots of tragedy going on here. So, but kind of a new day here for Miles, and yeah, some interesting storylines going on there. But yeah, so, again, I've always liked Miles anyway. So if you kind of want to take a break from all the Spider-Man stuff here, definitely check out Miles. Another new #1 here. Speaking of Spider-Man here, the first issue of Dark Web. Of course, this is the new crossover that's going to involve Spider-Man and the X-Men. Basically, the two world's worst clones in the Marvel Universe, Ben Reilly and Madeline Pryor, who's, of course, the clone for Jean Grey. Yeah, they've teamed up and kind of pooled their own agony and misery together and decided that maybe they're going to spread that into the rest of the world here. So it's kind of interesting. We get a little bit of kind of an Inferno callback, if you remember that series in the 80s. Where basically Madeline Pryor kind of lets loose on New York. There's all these demons and stuff going on. So definitely a callback to it. But then a little bit something new here, of course, involving Spider-Man. And then, of course, kind of do the inverse here. We've got Chasm, which is who Ben Reilly is now. There's Madeline over there. And yes, that is Venom. And yeah, there's a very good reason why he's hanging out with those two. So, well, yeah, don't want to spoil too much there. But yeah, of course, this will branch over into Venom as well for some of the tie-ins. There's an X-Men miniseries tie-in. Of course, it's also tying into the regular Amazing Spider-Man series. And I believe there's going to be a couple of spin-offs from this, one definitely including the Red Goblin. So that's a character we've seen from time to time, but serious baddie. So, yeah, the Red Goblin's definitely going to be making a comeback this week. All right. Another new #1 here, and this actually is kind of a double tie-in here. Thanos Death Notes. This is basically a bunch of kind of like between the cracks Thanos stories that occur within different integral points for Thanos' life. Basically, before he's initially killed originally in the Marvel Universe with a big kind of a storyline between he and the Avengers, and then when he was essentially right around the time he was resurrected before the Infinity Gauntlet, and then also right before the events of the Infinity Gauntlet. So that's kind of what we're dealing with here. The interesting thing is that Michael Gronbeck, who is currently taking over the writing duties right now for Thor because Donny Cates is taking a break. And so, you know, a little bit interesting there. So he's kind of the main story arc in this one here, but this all essentially ties in to the new issue of Thor here, #29. And yes, the Legacy of Thanos is the title for this storyline that's going on here. And this is basically picking up kind of where some of the implications that Donny Cates did leave, kind of a storyline that was a future that Thor saw his own death. And in that future, Thanos, let's see here, actually, if they have the image in here, do me a favor. Yeah, they may have it here. Anyway, but yeah, a great image of, oh, here we go. Yeah. There we are right there. So we've got Thanos holding Mjolnir that is embedded with the Infinity Stones. Basically is flanked by an army of dead heroes that seem to be under his control. And there's this mysterious black gauntlet here that Thanos is wielding with a gem set in the middle of the gauntlet. Apparently, this is a new Infinity Stone that we have created. And, of course, it's going to be creating a lot of problems for Thor and probably somebody else in the Marvel Universe, I'm sure. But, yeah, this is definitely going to be kind of picking up a little bit where Donny Cates had dropped a few storyline ideas. But, yeah, I'm glad to see them kind of be, not necessarily resurrected. I guess he still had those plans for him. I guess maybe I'm not exactly sure what the whole process is. I know Donny has left both Thor and Hulk, but he does have some further plans going on with Marvel, so we don't know what those are just yet. So we'll see. But yeah, so anyway, I'm very curious to see what Grombeck is going to do with the rest of it. So, yeah, but for right now, I'm intrigued. It seems fun. So, yeah, we'll see. All right, a couple of number twos here. This is a mini series here. I talked about it before last month. Secret Invasion. This is a sequel, of course. Maybe kind of inspired by what's the upcoming show for next year, and we'll talk about that a little later. But yeah, really enjoying this right now. Definite kind of callback to the Thing, because the test to kind of see who's a Skrull and who's not a Skrull that Maria Hill comes up with, it does involve a blood test. So yeah, kind of a new way of doing that, but I'm really enjoying it. Lots of spy stuff going on, of course. Who's a Skrull, who's not a Skrull sort of thing. A lot of that paranoia going on. So yeah, very good so far. I'm enjoying it. Second issue of Fantastic Four came out this week. Of course, is the new Ryan North run storyline here. Dan Slott had a really long run on Fantastic Four, but he's ended that. So Ryan's kind of taken a little bit back, a little old school here, kind of reminding us of some of the fun of the Fantastic Four, sometimes figuring out a bit of a mystery here, using science, sort of thing like that, not always going into fighting, but again, kind of getting back to the old school fun here. So, but what we found out in the first issue is that apparently some sort of experiment, something went awry, and so the Baxter building is gone, and there's a giant hole where it once was. So there's this big hole in the center of Manhattan. Everybody's kind of mad at Reed about it. So the Thing and Alicia Grimm have kind of taken on a road trip. For some reason, their kids didn't go with them. So that's kind of curious. The adopted children, by the way. Reed and Sue are kind of on their own little road trip, kind of maybe, taking a break from things, whatever else. Unfortunately, they stumble upon what seems to be a town full of Doombots. So, of course, it's all definitely tying into building up the larger story here. And the next issue addresses where's Johnny, because we haven't seen him pop up just yet. So, but again, really enjoying kind of this new run on Fantastic Four right now. So, yeah, kind of simplifying things a little bit. We've had a big storyline recently that kind of ended Dan Slott's run. So, kind of taking things back to basics. I like how that's going. Of course, another big storyline going on right now. This is part 2 of Avengers Assemble, taking place in the new issue of Avengers here, number 63. This has just been some slam bang action here. All the Avengers goodness you can handle. Just a whole bunch of superheroes fighting supervillains. I don't want to spoil too much because there's some cool stuff that happens in here. But I'm thoroughly loving the storyline right now. Of course, this will continue in Avengers Forever. So flip-flop back and forth. I believe it's a 6-issue miniseries. So taking 3 in Avengers, 3 in Avengers Forever. And then I imagine they will be having an Omega issue to cap things off. But yeah, so much good stuff. Of course, this will end the run that Jason Aaron has had on Avengers that's lasted for many years. So I'm sad to see that end, but man, what a way to end it. So yeah, thoroughly enjoying that. Since we're talking about Avengers here, got to talk about Captain America, Sentinel of Liberty. This has been a tremendous book here. Just a great kind of conspiracy storyline, that's kind of some of the better Captain America stories when you've got a bit of conspiracy going on, some sort of government power that's just really kind of got their reins and everything, and Cap's trying to beat him back, but they just seem to be overpowering just a little bit or outsmarting. But in this issue, Cap gets a team together, and as you can see, it's a bit of an all-star team here. We've got Nick Fury, Natasha. There's Peggy Carter in the back. There's you can't really tell it. That's Hawkeye right there, and there's Sharon Carter. So yeah, this is a super group here to kind of help out Cap, and it ends with a heck of an ending here because we get a plan together. We've got our super group here. They're going to tackle the outer circle, and then their plan kind of goes awry. But it's in a very interesting way. So, yeah, we'll go into that next issue here. But, yeah, I got a feeling we'll be talking about that one. Last but not least for our Marvel run here, the 5th issue of Predator. I've been saying great things about this book from the beginning. Ed Brisson, Kev Walker are the team on this one here. Frank D'Amato doing the colors and inking. Yeah, just absolutely Love, love, love this book. If you're a Predator fan, this needs to be a movie right now. The main story is our human that we run around with. Her name is Theta. Her parents were part of an exploratory team that, basically they would go around different planets, either with terraforming, exploring, settling, whatever the case may be. They stumble upon a planet that is inhabited by predators, and they are all murdered, except for her. And so she takes off in a ship, grows up, and basically has been hunting predators her entire life. So far, she's not doing too bad. She's taken out a couple herself here, but basically the last couple have been a bit elusive. And now, of course, we've got, space federations, governments kind of getting their hooks involved. And of course, that's going to go very bad for them, as we'll find out. But yeah, of course, we have not found that one last elusive predator who is the guilty party who actually did murder her parents. So she hasn't found that one just yet. But yeah, let me tell you, there's some great action in there. I'm not sure how long the series is going to go. Definitely seems like there's going to be a big wrap up in issue 6, but hopefully kind of keep things going there, for a regular series, hopefully. So fingers crossed on that one. But yeah, lots of good books this week here. Of course, there was probably many more that I didn't mention or even pick up or whatever else. But if they're, something you enjoyed or you picked up that I didn't mention, please, let me know, share it in here, because, hey, I want to know everyone else's opinions. Maybe there's a book that I didn't see that's really, really good. You guys need to, need to let me know about it. So yeah, I'm always willing to hear about it. We're going to take a break for just a second to acknowledge our sponsor, Comic Books for Kids. And when we come right back, we got a whole lot of MCU to review and recap. We'll be right back. See ya.
Comic Books for Kids provides comic books to kids in hospitals and cancer centers across the U.S. It's a place where we can all work together to make sure every child has a comic book. 100% of all proceeds go towards the kids. It's about making a difference, and while they're in the hospital, allowing them to fly like a superhero, battle dragons, or rescue teddy bears. We are in every state in the country and now support over 160 hospitals. Every month, we add more.
Visit cb4k.org.
All right. Welcome back, everybody. So let's talk movies and TV of MCU for 2022 here. So, of course, some shows and movies we've talked about, but there's a couple I haven't yet. I did not get to talk on the show about Wakanda Forever. I talked about it on Movie Meltdown. No, you looked up that episode. Movie Meltdown is a great movie podcast that I get to guest star on there from time to time. So, yeah, my buddy Brian Renfro runs that one. So, yeah, check out our Black Panther episode. We did, I think he posted that one last week or so. Anywho, so we'll talk about that one in just a sec. But let's go back and talk about Doctor Strange and the Multiverse of Madness. Frankly, as our 3 movies go, this was definitely my pick for my favorite movie of this year for the MCU. This was directed by Sam Raimi. He just was a master horror director, and this was an absolute treat for the audience to get this director with this particular character doing a horror movie for Doctor Strange. So, yeah, again, let me put that's a wonderful poster up there. So, yes, Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness, definitely my pick for the best film for 2022 in the MCU. Some interesting things kind of, implicated for the future for Doctor Strange. For one, of course, he's got this third eye thing. We saw from other Doctor Stranges at the multiverse that eventually is a bad thing. So, we'll see how essentially he's going to handle that in the future. But the big thing, of course, is that we introduce Clea. Finally, of course, a very integral character within the Doctor Strange universe within the comics. She is his wife, kind of been off and on, but it's a strange marriage. So, but she is a warlord of the Dark Dimension where Dormammu comes from. She is his niece, and she is constantly in battle with him. So, yes, she's good. But, yeah, she is a way more experienced and embattled sorcerer than Strange is. So she's definitely more powerful, I would say, in some regards. So, yeah, that's just a lot of fun to finally get her, and, of course, to get Charlize Theron on there. Yeah, you can't ask for anything more about that. I'm just a great pick for cast there. So whether or not, of course, I'm sure Doctor Strange is going to be involved in some way, shape, or form in the larger scope of things, because we are going to get into other multiversal stuff, timey-wimey sort of things here. So, yeah, in the greater scope of things, I think Doctor Strange will be involved. But will we see anything else further from the Dark Dimension? Probably not until the third Strange film, I would assume. But you never know. We'll see how Blade turns out. He was supposed to come out this year, but they were going to start production, and then I got to push back for 2023. Then currently, as it's going right now, it originally lost its director and writer. Now we have a new director and writer, which is very cool because it's the same creative team that brought us Lovecraft Country. And if you haven't seen that show on HBO Max, highly recommend it. And of course, Jonathan Majors is the lead on that one, so that's pretty cool. Kang running a show on that one, but yeah, really recommend that one there. So yeah, I think it's a very good pick for Blade. So now Blade's 2024, so we'll see. David Magley, you agree with me on Multiverse of Madness? Yes, that was fantastic. But yeah, some nice fun implications for the mystical side of the Marvel Universe, but no further tie-ins to kind of anything more organized, kind of like a Midnight Suns sort of thing just yet. We got maybe some later hints for that down the line when we get to Werewolf by Night, but we'll see if we get maybe anything further when we get to the Blade movie, because I would assume that would kind of be our next entry into the supernatural sort of thing from there. So we'll see. Or maybe we have something for next year too. We'll see. Our next film come up here, the controversial Thor: Love and Thunder. This was definitely a love it or hate it kind of movie here for folks. Once again, Taika Waititi came in and directed this film here. Maybe he didn't handle the dark side, comedy side, the great balance that he had in Ragnarok. Maybe he went a little more topsy-turvy on this one here. I still enjoyed the film. It was fun. Was it as good as Ragnarok? No. It's definitely not the best entry into the Thor series, but I will definitely say it's not the worst. I definitely would have put Gore in a much bigger role in this one. You had a great actor like Christian Bale doing this. Why did you waste it so much? Why was he barely in the film? Why was he not more, I don't know, evil enough? And also it's kind of strange of him, basically, Gore essentially kidnapping children to lure Thor to his place for a fight. I don't know. On the other hand, though, I do like how they handled the Jane Foster story with bringing her back, doing the cancer storyline, her getting the hammer and being Thor as well. But yeah, I really enjoyed that sort of thing. I enjoyed the whole King Valkyrie and her running the Asgard on Earth and kind of the new way of things for there. I did like Thor's journey, his kind of, getting past the sadness, getting back to being Thor and kind of, finding his place in the world. And the interesting thing is basically him kind of, running around now with Eternity, who's in the form of a small child who's now, I guess, dubbed Love. But very interesting to see where that's going to go, because, again, if that's truly the actual Eternity, we have an extremely powerful being in the body of a child that Thor is now kind of running around with and hanging out and getting on with adventures and teaching her how to be a good person. But will this basically become a problem later on? Will this become, a blessing? Remains to be seen. So some big stuff with that little girl. So I'm very curious to see how that's going to turn out in the future here. Dave's commenting saying it's hard to live up to Ragnarok, but it's his number 2 Thor film. It needs more goats. Yes, I will definitely say that the true saving grace for Love and Thunder were the goats. Even though they didn't properly name them, they are Tooth Gnasher and Tooth Grinder. But yeah, the screaming goats were just, that was a wonderful thing there. I could have just had they as my only comedy here and maybe not had, so much other comedy in the movie. So I don't know. The Goofy Zeus was fun. I don't know. We'll see how that's going to turn out here. I'm definitely interested in seeing Hercules because that's a great, much like Hulk, that's going to be a great fight. So, just two mountains going at it, mano a mano. So, yeah, that's going to be some good stuff there. All right, our last film for 2022, and I, of course, didn't get to talk about this one here, but this was Black Panther Wakanda Forever. Now, of course, I didn't talk about this in great detail. I did say initially that I did enjoy it. I saw it twice the opening weekend. Of course, that was a little bit by design because I had to take my wife and my nephew. So there we go there. I thought it was very well handled with the, how they were going to do the transition of, T'Challa passing and kind of the rest of the cast kind of taking the mantle. I thought this was very well handled. It was interesting, kind of, T'Challa's passing, how it was dealt with is kind of like this mysterious disease that wasn't quite named, but it kind of felt a little more true to life because, as we know, Chadwick Boseman lost his battle with cancer. That's why he's no longer with us, which really sucks. F cancer. But yeah, so we'll, but there's some very kind of, very important implications that this film puts into the MCU, kind of in the reality side of things here. And what I mean by that is that, of course, we've got the larger scope of things that we'll see in season 2 of Loki next year. Definitely in Ant-Man and the Wasp and Quantumania. But there's some bigger, crazy multiverse, timey-wimey stuff that's going to go on in there. But some of the more earthbound, real-life problems that we're going to be seeing are going to be kind of dealing with two things: basically the race for vibranium, and then, of course, the race for Stark Tech, which we will see later on in Armor Wars. Two very real-world problems, basically countries, foreign entities, terrorist organizations, yada, yada, supervillains, the list goes on and on. And we saw a very good taste of this with basically Director Contessa, Director DeFontaine, with her kind of popping into this one and just being a real kind of just thorn in our side there. There's a lot of other words I could use, but she's a thorn. But either way, a great villain, of course. We'll see how things kind of play out a little bit more with her, definitely in the Thunderbolts movie. But what we do know is that vibranium is no longer a proprietary of Wakanda. It is now in Talokan, aka Atlantis. It may be in other places throughout the MCU. We don't know just yet, but we do know that basically more than one meteorite landed that basically provided us with the vibranium. So that's going to be a very dangerous prospect for the future of the MCU. Basically getting vibranium in the hands of other people who probably shouldn't have it, I'm sure. But of course, the U.S. basically, we know that Wakanda has it, and they're now being less than forthcoming because, of course, at least the UN or the French government specifically, or whoever it was that hired specifically those mercenaries to try to steal vibranium, and it didn't work out so well for them. So yeah, basically, the Queen kind of shut the doors that T'Challa originally opened in the last Black Panther for a very good reason. So we're definitely going to see a lot of opposition there. But now we have this very strange, tenuous alliance between Wakanda and Talokan that we know will not last for very long. And if you've read any Black Panther comic in the last 20 years, you know that basically Namor and Black Panther are usually at each other's throats on a regular basis. Either whether they're opposing governments and societies, whether they're just, they're at it themselves. But yeah, these are two societies that try to get along but really can't. And it's kind of unusual that they're both basically, they're both secret societies. They both kind of have something to gain by protecting each other and compiling resources, but instead they don't. So there's that. Another big thing, of course, is that Namor has a conversation with Shuri while he's kind of showing her around Talokan, is that we now know that Namor is the first mutant. This is straight from the books. So it's no longer just Ms. Marvel anymore. We now have Namor. So we now have 2 confirmed mutants in the MCU. So that's big, letting us know that basically, kind of what Kevin Feige has said from the beginning. The mutants have always been here. We're just going to start kind of revealing them a little by little here. The other big thing that kind of glanced past a little bit is that Shuri is not the first surface worlder to visit Talokan. Who? Who is this? So there were a lot of implications, a lot of fan theories that maybe we were going to see Victor Von Doom possibly in this movie, cementing his place within the MCU before we would meet him in a Fantastic Four movie. But that, of course, that wasn't the case. But yeah, so that's a big question left there. Of course, the last big thing, of course, if you make it to the end of the movie, you know that basically we now have a new proper heir to the throne with the young Prince T'Challa. And that was just kind of, a beautiful scene meeting him. And that kid is just cute as a button, too. I tell you, just, you couldn't get, can't get past that. So, but yeah, so very interesting things were kind of, said there with that. Basically, both he and Nakia did survive the snap. So basically they lived for 5 years with him growing up. So that's why he's, of course, a little older there. And also, it was kind of a tragic thing for him to basically, lose his father twice, because we lost him in the snap. He came back for a little bit, and then we lost him again to this disease. So, he's kind of gone through that tragedy, but at least he's kind of being protected. He's being raised right. And yeah, one day he will take the throne and take the mantle of the Panther himself. I'm curious how quickly they're going to age this kid up. We saw Cassie Lang get aged up in the matter of, it was a good chunk of time in our timeline, but basically it was about 4 movies, 2 Ant-Man movies, Endgame, and then basically bada boom, there, Infinity War and Endgame, and there you are. So she's, an adult now, and we see her in the next Ant-Man film, or kind of a young adult, I should say. But yeah, the right age to start her superheroing career. And of course, we know if you're a Young Avengers reader that she becomes Stature. So she doesn't take the whole bug theme from her dad. She basically she can shrink and grow large, but yeah, she liked the name Stature. So there you go. Dave, let's see, saying that Von Doom was his guest for Namor's first visitor. Yeah, I don't know. A guy with the kind of resources that Doom would have, that would be very interesting. So again, we will see again in the future what's going to happen with this vibranium race, with maybe who else was the visitor down there, more with the mutants. But yeah, but interesting though, kind of just some real world stuff in there. Getting past, of course, we essentially had 2 funerals in that movie because we lost both T'Challa and the Queen. So that was brutal. But what it did though introduce was Riri Williams, who later becomes Ironheart. We saw a little glimpse of that with her kind of her Mark II suit that looked a little bit Iron Man and a little bit Big Hero 6. So yeah, again, I love the character Riri Williams. She was my favorite part of the movie by far. They did her perfect, and really a clever way of introducing her as the next legacy character for the kind of the Iron Man legacy, while not tying her in Iron Man, but she's all the good things about Tony. She is a builder. She's a thinker. She goes outside the box. She's kind of breaking ground with how smart she is and what she can do. But kind of like Peter Parker, though, she enjoys the found objects when it comes to science. So, Tony has all the resources and the money to kind of create all these sort of new things, whereas Peter kind of can create new things by using found objects and old parts and whatever else, repurposing things. So, yeah, she's a little bit more greener that way. So, I don't know whether it's a generational thing or not, but nonetheless, kudos to her. And yeah, just really, really enjoyed the way she was done. So, looking very forward to her upcoming series next year. We'll talk about that in just a sec. All right. Kind of transitioning from our films into the Disney Plus series, let's talk about our special presentations, because we had 2 of those this year. Kind of an experiment that Disney Plus set off, and both did really well. Both are great, fun little things. One gives us a new glimpse kind of into the monsterverse, so to speak, of the Marvel Universe. And then the other, of course, a look once more at our friends, the Guardians of the Galaxy. So first off, we got to talk about Werewolf by Night. I couldn't have loved this thing anymore. A lot of folks said this was the best thing that came out of the MCU this year. Arguably, I would say yes. I really enjoyed the Moon Knight series. I really enjoyed She-Hulk. But yeah, as a great launching point for anybody into the MCU, for bringing out some great MonsterVerse characters, kind of maybe giving us a glimpse of what's to come for some of these characters, and maybe even a little bit of a backstory. But just, yeah. And then, of course, so cleverly done with it being in black and white, so you can get past the gore and the scariness, the monster stuff, without worrying about being censored by, being on a Disney platform. So, yeah, that was just an absolute godsend this year. So I really, really hope that this was kind of maybe an annual thing where every Halloween or around Halloween time, we get a special presentation that doesn't necessarily have to be Werewolf by Night. It could be someone else in the MonsterVerse, but we get kind of another glimpse into that, because it's obvious that Jack Russell and Ted, a.k.a. the Man-Thing, have worked together previously. They have a relationship, but it's also evident that they're working with a larger group, because, we saw Jack, his one bit of tech is that little trinket he had that was the bomb that supposed to, blast the wall to help them get out. And he barely knew how to work that thing. So, so there's definitely a larger group at play here that, kind of handle all things within the MonsterVerse. That's, eventually maybe we'll see Elsa be a part of as well. But yeah, so just the introduction of Elsa Bloodstone, Jack Russell, Ted Solis, aka the Man-Thing, just absolutely note perfect. Really enjoyed that thing, and just a great, a great, seasonal, little presentation as well. Just absolutely loved it. See, Dave's thrown in here saying that for me on Disney Plus, Moon Knight, Werewolf, She-Hulk, Ms. Marvel, and Guardians. Okay, putting Guardians in last there. Interesting. Saying that didn't love the Guardians, nothing didn't love the Guardians, just loved everything else more. Okay, all right, well, there you go. And actually, we will bring that up here. The Guardians of the Galaxy Holiday Special. This has been out for about a week and change, a couple weeks now. So yeah, if you have not got around to seeing this, highly recommend checking this out here. Yes, this is kind of taking place between the cracks of 2 and 3. I'm not quite sure where this takes place within their appearance in Thor: Love and Thunder. I guess maybe we'll find that out maybe more in Volume 3, Guardians of the Galaxy. But yeah, this was just a great, fun little snippet of them as we see that the Guardians are now running and own Nowhere, the space station built in the head of a dead Celestial. They apparently bought it for a song from the Collector, because the last time we saw Nowhere, Thanos had kind of blown the place up pretty good and trashed it looking for the other Infinity Stones that the Collector had in his possession. So, yeah, I got a feeling they got it cheap. But it looks like they had the place running pretty well. And, everybody seems pretty happy with the way things are going. So, yeah, that's a nice kind of new status point for the Guardians, and kind of maybe a go-home place for them at the end of Volume 3. But the other interesting thing was that basically Mantis is apparently kind of the, I guess, half-sister for Star-Lord. So there you go. Had a nice little family connection there. But again, this was a hilarious special, great, involving Kevin Bacon in this. We got to get a nice showcase for Drax and for Mantis. Definitely for Mantis, she steals the show, but this kind of was her show anyway. Yeah, absolutely loved it. I love seeing kind of the older teenage Groot, I guess, where basically he's kind of put on some muscle mass, so to speak. He looks a little hulky. But yeah, so that was a lot of fun. I love the cameo of the old 97s playing the band at the beginning and the end of the special. So yeah, you couldn't recognize them with all the makeup, but as soon as they started singing, I'm like, oh, hey, I know those guys. But yeah, so just thoroughly enjoyed that one. But yeah, we get our last bow here for the Guardians coming up next year in Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3. So we'll talk a little bit about that in just a bit. But our next Disney Plus series, we got to talk about Moon Knight here. Of course, this had some controversy to it as well, because people had perceptions of what they thought this series was going to be versus what it actually was. But all of us actual Moon Knight fans who followed the comics for years, I got to tell you, definitely as the series goes, I'm with Dave here. This is my favorite series. because it definitely played with all facets of the character. We got to see him be in his suit, kind of the all-white badass Batman kind of character. We got to see all the different psychological personas of Mark Spector. Then we got into kind of the crazy, psychological sort of things that we saw kind of in the Jeff Lemire run of Moon Knight. Definitely everything that kind of took place in the hospital and the bending of what's real, what's not real, sort of, questions there. So again, just absolutely loved this take on the character and his presentation. So yeah, just absolutely love this stuff here. So couldn't have loved the series any more. Again, though, this was kind of a little bit in the love or hate it sort of category, because there were some folks who, again, they saw the trailer and they thought it was going to be one thing, and it kind of gets weird and kind of gets, a little crazy and whatnot. They weren't quite prepared for that. But again, I think it was a great introduction for the character, and nice the way of doing this, because it didn't, adhere it all into the rest of the Marvel universe. So Moon Knight can kind of be just dropped in wherever, he may be, without much further introduction, because we kind of got him in here. Of course, we'll see him definitely, I would assume, in his, second season, or popping up in someone else's show. I hope. But there's definitely some later problems he's going to have to deal with this third persona, basically an avatar within the avatar, the character of Jake Lockley, who is the third persona for Moon Knight, who apparently has no problem doing the dark stuff, doing Khonshu's bidding, and doing this all away from the eyes of Mark and Steven. So, yeah, we'll see how that all pans out in the future here. Next Marvel series here, we got to talk about Ms. Marvel, of course, because this was a fun coming of age. Yes, it was, built a little bit for a younger audience, but the older audience can still enjoy this because, again, nice pure coming of age story here. Great origin story for Kamala Khan, introducing us to her world and seeing also a very authentic side for what it's like to be a Pakistani American, also to be, a Pakistani American in Pakistan as well. So, you got to see, all these different facets of her character and her nationality and her culture, and also a little bit of her history as well. So that was, really nice, opening up to, people who've never seen that side of America and this side of the world as well. So, but, again, a lot of fun with it. Wasn't too super serious. It got a little serious towards the end here when basically dropped the fact that Kamala is a mutant. So, as we now know from Wakanda Forever, she's not the first, but she was the first one to kind of, just bring up the M word in the MCU. So, and it was a nice callback when they're having that conversation with Bruno, and we hear a little bit of the X-Men animated series theme play. So, again, a nice little introduction in there, and we will see Kamala a little bit later on next year with the Marvels being the sequel to Captain Marvel. We'll also see Photon or Spectrum or whatever Monica Rambeau is going to call herself. But either way, we're going to see her in that movie as well. But yeah, we get kind of a nice little precedent set for this character. Another, younger legacy character, but also kind of a little bit more of the cosmic stuff there, because the band she has that, though it has some ties into the clandestine and the fact that she, may have thought she was a djinn, it's also definitely a cosmic nega band. So yeah, we'll definitely see a lot more of that cosmic side of things here in the Marvels later on next year. But yeah, again, a fun series. If you didn't check it out, or maybe a little leery because you thought it was just for kids, I recommend checking it out. At least for the fact that you get to see a Pakistani wedding, which also since they're also Muslim. So yeah, it was a really beautiful ceremony and service, whatever else. You at least get to see that side of things. For that's side of a culture of a bit of America, a bit of the world. So again, really enjoyed it. Check it out. Our next and last series for Disney Plus, of course, She-Hulk, which had its own little bit of controversy because, well, basically some guys who just don't know how to take a joke or see maybe what their actual place in the world is, or how they really are perceived, and how maybe, the world is perceived by professional young women who have to put up with this nonsense. but nonetheless, a very true to the character introduction with how she was handled, with more importantly, kind of how she perceives being a superhero. A very interesting precedent set by this, series that we've not really seen in any of the other superhero things. Basically, when someone, gets their powers, they're very excited about it. They're ready to go, get the costume and let's go fight crime. No, Jennifer's a lawyer. She's a professional. She really wants to be a lawyer, really enjoys being a lawyer, and it's kind of a pain in the ass that she's now has to put up the superhero stuff. So that's a very interesting precedent set of basically someone who is a superhero and doesn't really want to be one. So will we see more of that with some other future heroes later on? That's, we could see that. I'm sure there's a few I would have on a list. Sometimes Daredevil pops up on there. He doesn't want to be Daredevil sometimes. Sometimes he doesn't want to be Matt Murdock either. So currently in the comics, he doesn't want to be Matt right now. He's enjoying being Daredevil and being a ninja. So, more on that title later on. But yeah, so again, very much fun, breaking the fourth wall sort of thing, kind of a little different than what Deadpool does, kind of messing with reality. I love the fact that she stopped her own show and kind of accessed the Disney Plus menu and sort of thing like that. The whole Kevin Feige being a robot AI sort of thing like that, kind of just compiling all this stuff together, thinking this is what people want to see. Just comedy gold. Just very well handled, not a super serious side of the MCU, but a very important side nonetheless. Because that's the great thing is that once Jennifer kind of gets a little bit more of the hang of the superhero stuff and gets a hang of the community that she is now a part of, she's actually very beloved. More so than her cousin. But, in the comics, she is a Avenger part-time. She's also been a member of the Fantastic Four and is still on great terms with them. So, she's definitely a high-level superhero, much beloved by the public usually. So, yeah. I think this is kind of, again, a little more real-world stuff here. I'm sure Jennifer will get involved in some of the bigger stuff later on. But yeah, kind of just an interesting real world precedent set here. Someone who has these abilities, but would rather not use them, not be this way, and just live their normal lives. Cue mutants. So we will see. But yeah, so that's our wrap up review for the MCU in 2022 here. So again, review, I would say definitely our best film was Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness. As our special presentations go, Werewolf by Night killed it and set a fantastic example of what the Disney Plus and the MCU vehicles can do for future properties that have yet to be introduced into the MCU. Again, I'm talking to you mutants. But as the series go for Disney Plus, Moon Knight definitely was my favorite, but She-Hulk was definitely a close second there. So yeah, really enjoyed that stuff here. But for the future here, coming up next year, we've got a lot of stuff packed up here. Of course, we know definitely our next film will be Ant-Man and the Wasp in Quantumania coming up in February. And this is going to be setting some big things for the future here. I'm sure of it. We get to see Kang in all of his glory here. Jonathan Majors being front and center on the poster here. So yeah, this is definitely going to be some point for some big stuff here for the future of the Marvel Universe and kind of our future of the multiverse saga that we are currently in right now. So, and of course, next year moves us into Phase 5, Ant-Man being our first entry into Phase 5. So, yeah, lots of big stuff pointing in the future there. Of course, we've got the Marvels coming out. Talked about that just a little bit ago. But that's basically, we've got Carol Danvers coming back. She's being teamed up with Kamala Khan. We know Monica Rambeau is going to be appearing in here. As for our villains or the further plot, we don't know yet, but that's going to be later on in 2023. But what we have seen our first trailer for coming up, I think later in July or later in the summer, I know. We have Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3. We've seen our first teaser trailer for that one. We know we're going to be introduced to Adam Warlock. We know we're going to be seeing a little bit of Rocket Raccoon's origin story. The High Evolutionary is going to be our main villain in this one as well. So, yeah, lots of fun stuff in there. But we also, unfortunately, have to say goodbye to the Guardians as well. So, while the group will not be breaking up, this particular team probably will be. So we may see some members later on down the line, but others not so much. I know Bradley Cooper wants to go do his own movies and be a director, an Oscar-winning kind of guy. So maybe somebody else could take over for the voice of Rocket Raccoon. That's very possible because he's just basically doing voiceover stuff. So we'll see from there. I don't know about Vin Diesel. I know Dave Bautista wants to step away from things. So possibly Chris Pratt. I don't know. But definitely Dave Bautista and Bradley Cooper are the two that definitely want to move on. Of course, James Gunn has got a new gig going on running with the DCU films and their TVs and everything, really. Kind of, the way he's kind of voicing it is kind of they want to do a more connected, combined universe for DC Comics and their properties. So good luck to him. I think what we've seen out of him so far with the Peacemaker series and his Suicide Squad film points very positively. So I'm looking forward to seeing what he's going to come up with. So right now, it's a lot of, supposing, a lot of fans talking about what they would like to see. We know that the third Wonder Woman film, the plans for that have been scrapped. We're hearing a lot of different things about Henry Cavill's status, if he's actually coming back full-time as Superman or was kind of, partial sort of thing. I don't know. Also, is Jason Momoa going to be Aquaman? Is he going to be Lobo? Is he going to be both? All sorts of things. There's some tumultuous things going on. Lots of things stirring around in the DCU films and TV and their video game side of things there. But I'm positive for what the future is going to hold. But what it actually is holding, we don't know just yet. All right. So, but for the Disney Plus side of things, for our Marvel Universe series, we've got quite a few offerings here. Of course, we got 3 movies coming out, but for our series, we've got season 2 of Loki coming out, Ironheart, Agatha, Coven of Chaos, which I can't wait for that, seeing as Aubrey Plaza has been announced being part of that, so that should be a whole lot of fun. Spinning off of the Hawkeye series, we have Echo, which, of course, that will point to other things coming up later on in Daredevil's new series, Born Again, coming up in 2024. So we got kind of a little 3-way bridging of the street level heroes there, with Daredevil kind of being a little bit a part of all of that. And then also the one series I can't wait for, Secret Invasion, and which I assume would be our first series, seeing as we have a trailer for this one. So I got a feeling March is going to be when this one comes out. So yeah, definitely lots of spy stuff, lots of, Skrull takeover things, and some very interesting, possible important characters being introduced into the MCU through that show. So, yeah, very excited about what's going on for 2023 for the MCU, beginning Phase 5. So I got a feeling that, there was a lot of controversy, a lot of grumbling from fans about what Phase 4 was, and, maybe it was going things slow. We didn't know where we were going, where our greater direction was. But, I've said from the beginning, this was a rebuilding year. Where we were left at the end of Endgame, we had no Avengers anymore. Tony Stark was dead. Thor is off-world. And Captain America is an old man. Natasha is dead. So there are no more Avengers right now. We needed to introduce some new heroes, some new threats, some new statuses for our world post-Endgame. And again, this was a rebuilding year. So now we're into Phase 5. I think this is the phase that's really going to kick things off for the future of the MCU. And so for very exciting stuff coming up ahead of us here. And of course, keep your comic book friends close, folks, because if you're not kind of, accustomed to this stuff, things are going to start getting weird, and it's going to start with Ant-Man and the Wasp and Quantumania. Lots of multiversal stuff, lots of, time manipulation, possible universes, all kinds of crazy stuff going on here. So, yeah, keep those friends close. They're going to have to explain some stuff to you, I'm sure. But either way, some very, very cool stuff. I can't wait for it. So, Yeah, 23 is going to be a good year. I'm pretty certain of it. So I want to know what you guys think. What's your thoughts and feelings about the MCU and the future of it? Are you as hopeful as I am? Are you, kind of waiting to be, let's prove it, so to speak here? Yeah, because there's definitely, there's been some turmoil here in this phase here. So, not everybody's been happy with it. So we will see here. My buddy Dre here is asking here, is Kang Nathaniel Richards in the movie? Very good question. I'm sure I have a lot of questions myself because I'm not 100% sure if this particular Kang is the villain that we're, not looking forward to, so to speak here. Could this be another variant of Kang that's essentially hiding from the bad Kang? Apparently, Wasp or, Janet Van Dyne, Michelle Pfeiffer's character, she knows a little something. So what's her connection to Kang? What's Kang doing in the quantum verse or the quantum realm? So, yeah, lots of questions there. And that's what you need to know. Yeah, there are just tons and tons of questions about who. That's the thing, is that Kang is such a versatile character and has been a big part of the Marvel Universe in the comics throughout its history, because that's kind of part of his thing, is the time travel and manipulation of the multiverse and all that sort of thing. So, yeah, he's a very, very dangerous character here. And understanding a great introduction to the Fantastic Four if they kind of take that route of him being Nathaniel Richards, a descendant of Reed Richards, or a future descendant or a past descendant. Nonetheless, he's related in some way, shape, or form. So, yeah. So again, lots of just exciting things set for us in the MCU in the future for next year. So I'm very looking forward to seeing what's going to happen here. I got a feeling that those who have been, a little doubtful, a little on the fence, maybe a little more negatively critical, I think just wait. You will be pleased with what's coming up. So that's all I've got for you guys this week here. Again, so very exciting stuff here. So yeah, we will join us. We will see again. We will see what the future holds, what's going to be coming up in the MCU. But yeah, I'm excited. I'm definitely very excited for Quantum Mania. So yeah, if you thought Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness was wacky, where do you see this one, folks? All right, you guys have yourselves a wonderful weekend. Enjoy yourselves. Go, catch up on some streaming stuff. I need to go catch up on Willow. I've heard mixed things, so I'm excited about checking that one out. Finally got to finish up Andor. That was amazing. Looking forward to season 2 of that. So, yeah, you guys go check out some streaming stuff. Enjoy yourselves. Have a wonderful weekend, and I will see you next time on the Fanatic Forum. Take care, everybody. Bye-bye.